Going quick here. Putting it up. Kirby. I think he forced that one. Good play, Kirby. Lions are in a bounce-back victory on the road in Arizona on the strength of their defense. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Let's get into the report card for the Detroit Lions in Week 3 and hand out some grades. We'll go through the offense, defense, and special teams, look at all of the positional groups in between, as well as the coaching in this Week 3 win over the Cards. Let's go. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this Week 3 win over the Cardinals. Lions bounce back on the strength of their defense to get a victory in Arizona. What did you guys think of the game? Who was your MVP for Week 3? If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports, make sure to hit that like button for me. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd love it if you consider subscribing. We are now over 2,000 subscribers thanks to you guys. Hitting that notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. There is a membership option now available. We do all our live play-by-play reactions, tier lists, a bunch of other fun content there for you. But of course, I will always have that fun, free content you've come to love on the channel. Thank you guys so much for your time. Let's get into the Week 3 report card. Let's start with the offense, and before I give my overall grade for the offensive performance against the Cardinals, let's break down each individual position group, starting with the quarterback, Jared Goff. And like the offense, it was sort of a tale of two halves. He started out perfect in the first half, going 12 for 12. He was actually 14 of 14 to start this game against the Cardinals, and was really sharp in the first half. Really reformed that connection with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and again, looked more confident here in this game against the Cardinals. Was a little more up and down in the second half. Did have the interception, which was really just a good play by the linebacker there, Gardick. But really, showed himself in that last drive, did Jared Goff. Made the important completion on third down to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then made the run necessary to get the first down to cap the game there. So I thought overall a good performance by Jared Goff. Leaves a little bit of room of improvement there for what we saw in the second half. Overall, I gave him a B+ for the game against the Cardinals. The running backs, who were maybe the best position group of the whole day for the Lions here in Week 3 against the Cardinals. I thought both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were excellent in their own ways. The Lions reestablished themselves in their run game very early on, that very first drive, leaning on David Montgomery and capping it off with a short touchdown run there for Montgomery, who ended up finishing 23 rushes on the day for 105 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs himself, 16 rushes for 83 yards. David Montgomery had the touchdown on the ground, and of course, Jahmyr Gibbs scoring on that amazing hook and ladder play. So both were excellent in this game. I was very close to giving them a perfect grade, but I think there still leaves a little room there in the passing game for these two, as well as what happened in the second half. So in general, I gave them a letter grade of an A for their Week 3 win over the Cardinals. Let's go to the interior and the offensive line. And of course, you can't talk about how well the running backs did without focusing on the offensive line and their dominance. Again, kind of reestablishing themselves in this game. Again, got the run game going, and they were good throughout the entire game on the ground for sure. But I think, again, getting into the second half, they gave up 2 sacks. There were some timely penalties up front on some procedure calls that were difficult. I think that will clean itself up over time, but there is still a little bit of a room for improvement there. I think in the pass protection, that still could get a little bit better as we move forward. So overall, I got the offensive line a letter grade of B here for the Week 3 performance. Now let's focus on the wide receivers, or should I say wide receiver, because this really has turned into the Amon-Ra St. Brown show. He finished the game against the Cardinals, 7 receptions for 75 yards and the touchdown. Also was obviously a huge contributor to the hook and ladder play with Jahmyr Gibbs. So he was all over this game. He sort of reconnected with Jared Goff as that security blanket, the third down target. It was nice to see them connect on that third down at the very end of the game and sort of cap it. So that was good to see, but I really think there's still the question of who's the true number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. They need to get J-Mo worked back in. They just were not able to connect with him in this game. It seemed like the Cardinals sort of game planned and we're ready for J-Mo, so we'll see how they adjust to that moving forward. Overall, I gave the wide receiver group a B+. I thought they were very good in the first half, sort of faded away in the second half, and they really need to determine who are the other options in that group. And the tight end group, and it was nice to see Sam Laporta really get worked in offensively. He was more involved this game along with Brock Wright. Sam Laporta had really been absent in the first 2 weeks, and the word is he was recovering from his knee injury. The unfortunate part is he suffered what I think is a lower ankle sprain now that they've come out and said. now in this week 3 matchup, so we'll kind of see what he does coming out of it. But overall for this game, I thought him and Brock Wright were much more involved, better in the blocking game, obviously contributed heavily to the Lions' success on the ground here in week 3 against the Cardinals. Sam Laporta had 2 catches for 36 yards. Brock Wright had 4 catches himself for 34 yards. And again, we'll have to monitor this injury here for Sam Laporta. But I think even if he's down for a little bit, they like Brock Wright. They have Parker Hesse that they can rely on, so they might be able to get by for a few weeks or at least get to the bye week. Overall, I thought the tight ends were better. I gave them an overall grade of B+ against the Cardinals here for week 3. Overall, for their performance against the Arizona Cardinals in week 3, I'm giving the offense a B. And like we mentioned, this really was a tale of 2 halves. They were able to establish their running game early on, did exactly what they wanted to do in this first drive against Arizona, capping it with the David Montgomery rushing touchdown. And they really controlled the ground game all day long. The problem is they really fell off in the second half. I believe they had 8 drives straight that resulted in 0 points, and you just can't have that. So yardage has been good. Their running game was very good, but they just were not able to convert that all into points. And I think that has a lot to do with their run-pass mix, getting some more weapons involved in the passing game, and we'll have to see how they adjust moving forward. All right, now let's switch over to the defensive side of the football, and I think this really carried the day for the Detroit Lions here in week 3 against the Arizona Cardinals. Let's start with the defensive line, and I thought they were excellent against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. I gave them an A- for this game. I think ultimately the biggest X factor of this game overall could have been Kyler Murray, and they held him in check. The Lions allowed Kyler Murray to run for 34 yards and complete all 4 of his passes on the opening drive there. On the 10 series that followed that the rest of the day, they allowed Murray to run for only 11 yards and passed for 169 yards only on 30 attempts. Kyler Murray in the second half had a passer rate of 51.4%. That is incredible considering, again, he had the perfect passer rating the week before. So I think that was strictly due to the Lions' containment up front on the defensive line. Yes, maybe the sack numbers weren't there, but against Kyler Murray, that kind of athletic quarterback, that number is not the most important thing. It's about how you contain them and their true effectiveness there, and I think they held him in check. So ultimately, I thought the defensive line was the star of this game and the well-deserved A- for week 3. Now let's talk about how the linebacking crew held up, and they had to come into this game without Alex Anzalone, who was still coming off of concussion protocol as we entered week 3. On top of that, they lost Sam linebacker Derek Barnes early on in the first half, who they have now confirmed will be an extended period of time on a knee injury. Again, we're waiting to hear a little bit more detail, but it looks like he will miss some extended time. So the Lions will really have to rely on some depth pieces now moving forward in the linebacking crew. And I will come out with a video specific this week on all of the injury updates as we get into the week 4 prep for Seattle. So we will talk about that in detail, but focusing on what happened in this week 3 matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, I thought the linebackers held up well. Considering the defense overall were able to contain Kyler Murray, the linebacking crew was a big part of that. They had to rely on guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves-Maybin to step up and fill in for now what was an injured linebacking crew. I gave them overall a grade of C+. I don't think there were a lot of impactful plays. I think there's still a lot left to be desired as far as covering the middle of the field, as far as pass coverage for that linebacking group. So they're really going to have to see how they'll make this work now in Derek Barnes' absence. Hopefully they'll get Alex Anzalone back for week 4. But again, I thought they held up well. I think there were also some untimely penalties, and the one that really shined to me was the late hit on Jalen Reeves-Maybin there, which gave Arizona the ball, I believe a first down in a crucial situation when they were really trying to get themselves back in the game. Of course, the defense was able to hold up and really did all day long. So again, I would say overall, because of the injuries, maybe this crew didn't flash, this particular group didn't flash in this game, but I thought really contributed to the overall success of the defense. And of course, got to look at the revamped secondary. How did they hold up against the Arizona Cardinals? Again, the defense in general was really, really good, and that included the defensive back. Let's start with Terrion Arnold. He was flagged early for defensive pass interference. It looked like the Cardinals were trying to pick on him early, but I thought he held up well. A little shaky at first, but towards the end of the game, he was able to make plays against Marvin Harrison Jr. and some others there. And just, again, Terry Arnold seems like a guy who isn't fazed by some of the tough calls up front, and that's what you really want to see in a rookie cornerback. You sort of expect some of these growing pains. And again, I thought he held up well. I think the safety group is really where the Lions shine. Now, again, we have some injury concerns now with Brian Branch. He's now in concussion protocol, and we'll look at that down the road here this week. But as far as this game, I thought he was really fantastic. We know Kirby Joseph, of course, had the interception. He has really turned himself into a ball hawk. Him combined with Brian Branch, I think now makes up one of the better safety groups in all of the NFL. If these two guys can remain healthy, it's a true asset to the Lions defense. Overall, they held the Cardinals to 207 passing yards. We talked about the Kyler Murray stats, and the Cardinals in general were 1 for 9 on third down conversions here in this game. And that has a lot to do with how much the secondary held up. They did not give anything deep, didn't get anything behind them, and I thought they were really good. So overall, I gave them a grade of B+ against the Cardinals. Overall, the defense, in my opinion, gets an A- for their performance against Arizona. They were fantastic and really have been now for 3 games over this regular season. It's not just a flash in the pan. They've now shown over a few games that they really can be an asset to this Lions team. They carried this Lions offense to victory here in week 3. Yes, the offense made the necessary plays in that last drive to cap this thing, but they were not able to score in the second half. They literally put up 0 points, the Lions offense did here against Arizona. So they had to lean on their defense to get this victory, and they came out shining. I mean, we talked about the Kyler Murray statistics, the lack of success Arizona had on third down. Arizona had absolutely no running game. They came in rushing the ball, I believe, 40 times against the previous opponent, the Rams, and James Conner over 120 yards, and they held him to literally nothing. I think it was 9 carries for 17 yards for James Conner. There was a non-existent run game for the Cardinals, and that's strictly due to the Lions defense. They've really held up well through the first 3 weeks, and it's a true asset to this team. I can't wait to see what they do moving forward. And the Lions special teams, the only reason I couldn't give them an A+ is because of that missed extra point by Jake Bates. And really, he pushed, I would say, most of his extra points all day long off to the right. The first one that he hit, I would say, almost missed off to the right as well. So it almost was something that, I don't want to say expected, but you could almost see it happening. So we'll have to monitor that down the road. But on the opposite end of things, I think Jack Fox is an amazing weapon for the Lions on special teams. He was fantastic punting the football week 3 against Arizona. He had 4 punts inside the 20, 3 punts inside the 10. He had 1 down to inside the 2-yard line, had a long of 68 that was a touchback, and also that one was aided by a penalty, which also backed him up as well. So he's flipping the field just about every single time Jack Fox punts the football. It's a real benefit to the Lions defense. It's really aiding in what the defense is able to do because it's putting the opposition in a long field in almost every situation. It's really incredible. He's turned himself into what may be the best punter in the NFL. So overall special teams I thought was really good. I thought Khalif Raymond was a step away on almost 2 different returns on breaking something there. He had over 40 yards of return yards in the game against Arizona, so I thought he was very good. Overall, I gave the special teams an A- for week 3. And lastly, let's talk about the coaching, which again, we've talked about the theme of this game, maybe a tale of 2 halves. Ultimately, let's lean on the positive, the defense. The performance defensively was really excellent. Coming into this game on a scary offensive team like the Arizona Cardinals, riding the momentum of that win against the Rams, there was a lot of room for the Lions to let Kyler Murray sort of run all over them and control this game, and they did not allow that to happen. The entirety of the game outside of that first possession for the Cardinals, the Lions really held them in check and controlled this game. We talked about how the Lions would be able to control this game in the trenches, and they were really able to do so, especially on the defensive line. Offensively is where I think the questions still remain. What happened in the second half? Why did we go 8 possessions with 0 points? That just cannot be down the road. So they're going to have to figure that out. Ben Johnson, although he got back to the bread and butter, relying on the offensive line, the running game, the running back duo that we have in Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs, who I thought were very good throughout the entirety of the game. That is something to lean their hat on and can base off of, what they do moving forward. But they're going to have to figure out their second half woes. What can they do coming out of that first half in those third quarters to keep the momentum rolling? Overall, I was okay with their decision-making. I thought, going forward on 4th down a couple times there, were okay. You could have taken a long field goal. I think it was 51 or 52 yarder that would have put them up a third possession. But I think at that point, with the missed extra point by Jake Bates and knowing Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, I was okay with those calls. I didn't think anything egregiously happened there. Other than that, again, I thought the fourth down challenge, the turnover of Kyler Murray, obviously they won that challenge, so that's an excellent call and was really a turning point in the game. Not only spoke on, what the Lions did defensively, but also a good coaching call there by Dan Campbell at the time. So overall, I thought the coaching was good. Again, they'll have some second half offensive, struggles to work on here as we move forward and go into week 4 against Seattle. Again, overall, I gave the coaching staff a B+ for this victory over Arizona in week 3. That will wrap up my week 3 report card. Lions get the victory over Arizona in week 3. What did you guys think of this win? Who were your offensive and defensive MVPs for the Lions over the Arizona Cardinals this week? Did I miss anything? Did I get my grades right? Definitely let me know what you guys think. There's a ton of injuries coming out of this week 3 victory now. Marcus Davenport has been lost for the season. There's reason to believe Frank Ragnow will now miss some time with a pectoral injury. The Sam linebacker, Derek Barnes, now has a knee injury and will miss some time. You also have some day-to-day injuries with Sam Laporta, guys like Brian Branch, and a few others. So the Lions' depth will really be tested now as they get into week 4 with the Seattle Seahawks. We'll have a game preview coming up this week. We'll look at the highlights coming off of this victory with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll have a tier list this week for members, so a ton of good stuff. Definitely hit the like button on this video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. I'd love it if you consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. We're up to 2,000 subscribers now, thanks to you guys. Hitting the notify button and bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time, but more than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys again. Have a fantastic week. Go Lions.